First bill for our consideration. Roll call.
Senator Case,
Present.
Senator Dockstader,
Here.
Senator Ide,
Here.
Senator Pappas,
Here.
Chairman McEwen.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
First bill for consideration is property tax exemptions effect on people's initiatives. Representative Locke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name's Tony Locke. I'm House District 35 representative, and I'm presenting House Bill 147, Property Tax Exemption Effects on People's Initiative. And this is a simple bill, and I'll give a real quick background. Most of you know it. You've probably heard this way too many times. But if you recall last year on some of the bills that passed between the houses, we had several bills that were similar. And on at least one of those bills, I think we had a repealer if based on the people's initiative. But when the bills finally came through, that repealer was no longer in place. And as all this bill really does is it puts it in place where the 25% exemption that was put in place by Senate File 69, if the people's initiative is voted in and implemented, it would repeal the 25%. Because I believe, at least for the most part, the intent was not to stack those. Take the people's initiative and stack an additional 25% on there. And so that's all this bill does. It repeals the 25% exemption that's currently in place that we have out there. And most of you know that's the one that last year that was against all residential property. This year, it will be against all owner occupied residential property. It's that example or that exemption. And all it does is and the way it's written, if the people's initiative is voted in by the voters and once it is implemented, then this will be that 25% exemption would be repealed. So that's really all the bill does. And I stand for questions.
Questions? Senator Ide.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think this is needed here for sure, Representative Locke. The questions, first off, is if there isn't something in the people's initiative that you lose by repealing the other exemption. And I don't know how we address that for sure. Like if it leaves out veterans, armed forces, or if there's something in there. I think, as I talked to you before, the people's initiative, and just correct me if I'm wrong, following you along, it's just for the structure and that alone. And the only other comment that I make is just looking at this, and it's fine by me, but it doesn't really address this specific ballot initiative on the bill. It just says the people's initiative. So anyway, those are just my comments. And if you can fill in a few of those holes, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Locke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the question. And I don't believe it really, there's really anything that we get crossways with. There's nothing really lost necessarily, but you are correct. The people's initiative itself is a 50%, but it is on structure only. So there's a difference. So a lot of people say it's a 50% exemption. It's really not, because there's some percentage depending on how much, what percentage of land is in. And it varies, of course, by every single assessment. But that land is not included in the people's initiative. That being said, for the most part, because it is on the residential structure, it would be a higher percentage than typically the 25%, at least in the numbers that I have run. That's what it looks like. And if for some reason the bill does not have some proper language related to the people's initiative, I'm sort of counting on the LSO for that to make sure that was done. So if that's the case, I apologize. But that being said, I felt like that the people's initiative would be a higher percentage. But again, as you said, it's not the 50% against structure and land like the 25% is. But once you kind of mix those two together, for most people, it's going to be a higher exemption than the 25% would have been. So Does that answer your question? Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to clear one thing up, make sure I heard you. So you think the 50% on the structure is going to lead to a bigger exemption for most people than the 25% on the structure and the land?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For most people, I believe that is the case. Now, I've looked at this as close as I could. I mean, it's not, I may not be 100%, but what I have seen for most part, at least depending on if you talk to, and I've looked at a lot of numbers here, sometimes the land can vary anywhere from probably, I've seen it as low as 12% of an assessment, of an assessed value. And I've seen it all the way up to, and it probably gets far higher than this. And I've seen it up as high as maybe 20%-ish. So on the average, I was told by the department that it was in the ballpark of, I want to say they told me it's in the ballpark of that 12 to 17% typically. I might be wrong, and if the department's in the room, they'll probably come up here and say I might have missed the number a little bit, but they would be able to help with that. But anyway, when you put that in place, you're getting a 50% on a pretty fair piece of it. So the way I calculated it, felt to me like for the most part it was a higher percentage for most people than the 25% would be. But the department might be able to give better numbers to that as well.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Doc
Thank you,
Setter.
Mr. Representative. You've given us an explanation of what it does with the numbers. Bring it home with an example of what this does in one of our counties.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and sorry, within a county, you say?
Just give us an example of what this might do. Help us understand this better.
Okay. So is all this bill will do is in a particular case on your home, for example, depending on what you're taking, where you're right now, the 25% is the exemption you would get. What you would get when the People's Initiative comes in place, the People's Initiative would replace the 25%. So on your house, for example, if your house was, and I'm sorry, or anybody's house, let's just say that 35% or excuse me, 70% of your property tax was your structure, and 30%, and that's probably a bad number, but just using that, what the People's Initiative will do is it'll apply that 50% against the 70%, which is the structure, if that makes sense. So in that particular case, here again, you're applying that 50% against a fair portion of a typical residential, counting the land and the structure. You're applying it to what is typically the largest portion of that. But so it won't be the full 50% because it won't be against the land. I don't know if I explained that very well. I'm sorry, but hopefully that helped a little bit.
Thank you.
Let me take a stab at it.
Please.
Okay, let's say we have the 100% tax bill due. 20% of it, and that is very high, is land, and 80% is the structure. So what you'd effectively end up paying is 40% for the structure and the 20 for the land, or 60%. So you'd be getting a 40% reduction versus 25 against all of it. Does that help?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Does the department want to come up?
Not really.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Ken Gill with the Department of Revenue, Property Tax Division Administrator. There is a fiscal note on this, and the way we did the fiscal note, just to kind of answer some of the questions from the previous testimony. Obviously, repealing the 25%, that's a revenue gain, right? But then we figured it with the People's Initiative being implemented at that time. So as you can see on the fiscal note, it's about 43 million for fiscal year 28 and 43.9 million for fiscal year 29. So we did calculate it as if we removed the 25% and then replaced the 50 with the People's Initiative. The People's Initiative, as Chairman Locke said, it is on the structure only, and it's 50% of the structure only for owner-occupied dwellings. So again, it is only owner-occupied dwellings. So much like the 25% is now owner-occupied, and owner-occupied dwellings across the state of Wyoming, about 72% of the dwellings, single-family dwellings, are owner-occupied. And that varies by county, as you would expect. With that, I would stand for any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Questions? Senator Ide.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Guild, for being here. So if we don't pass this bill and the People's Initiative is successful, what do you visualize happens then? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Ide, there's nothing in the homeowners exemption law that would exclude them from also getting the People's Initiative. So they would get the 25% and the 50% on the house. So they would get 25% on the house and the land, associated land, and 50%, another 50% on the house. So yes, there's nothing excluding them from getting both exemptions. Now, I would say there is an exclusion in the homeowners exemption, the 25% exemption, that excludes them from getting the long-term homeowners or vice versa. So if they get the long-term homeowners 50%, then they can't get the 25% and vice versa. So, but in this case, on the initiative, the ballot initiative, they would receive both should this law, the current law, homeowners exemption, not be repealed.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Dockstader.
Mr. Guild, Mr. Chairman, you described a scenario that keeps my county commissioners up at night. It's a combination of two tax breaks that leaves them struggling to figure out how they're going to fund their county. So just before you step away, this is the way we understand it. We're going to give this much of a tax break by approving this and potentially another voter approved initiative later, correct?
Mr. Chairman, if this were to not pass, yes, they would have both exemptions at this time. Could you change that in the general session next year? Possibly, but I'm not well versed in the initiative law.
I'd
So
be angry then. I'd be
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Gill.
absolutely, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Do we have any other testimony in the room?
Who's this guy?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Jeremiah Riemann here on behalf of the County Commissioners Association, and the senator hits it on the head. This is one of the reasons that I approached the good representative to see if he would consider bringing this legislation in light of the sense that it could stack on the long-term homeowners. I think it does make some good sense to consider whether we shouldn't include that as part of the repeal here as well, which would be for, and this is a complication and the reason I don't bring you an amendment, but you've got the bills that you have out there that if you remove that sunset, you would have to be repealing those. So, Mr. Chairman, I think it's worth considering that element. So we're not stacking multiple exemptions that could mean that some people are paying very little in terms of property taxes. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd sit for any questions.
Representative Locke. When we did the long-term homeowners exemption, did we not put language in there that wouldn't allow them to take both?
Mr. Chairman, I thought we did, but I don't recall exactly if that ended up in the long-term homeowner when it went through. I thought we had had an amendment there, but I cannot remember. I apologize. I would have to go back and look at that, but.
I thought we did too, but I'm where you're at.
Mr. Chairman, I certainly think it's reasonable to make sure that they couldn't stack long-term homeowner and the People's Initiative. I would think it would be like, for example, I would think it would be like something like we attempted to do with the 25% and the long-term homeowner. We made it to where you couldn't have both. I do believe having something that says you can't have both for the People's Initiative and long-term homeowner is fair. I intentionally did not include the long-term homeowner in here because I wanted to be sure that I wanted it sort of to be clean and simple to make sure we didn't stack the 25% and the People's Initiative. So admittedly, this bill does only that right now, but I would not argue that it could be argued. I intentionally didn't include long-term homeowner because I wasn't looking to in any way remove the long-term homeowner, but having an amendment that made sure long-term homeowner and the People's Initiative cannot be used together, I would say that's probably a valid amendment.
Mr. Gill. Don't leave. Stay. I'm sorry, I'm talking to you like you're a dog. Please sit down.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I want to make sure I have this clear in my head too. And it's kind of ancillary to the discussion. If I got the 50% long-term homeowners, and I'm going to use $100,000 for an example because the math is easy. I'm paying $100,000 property tax on it, which is ridiculous. Don't get excited, Jeremiah. That would knock it down to 50, right? And then the next 50 would be applied and that would knock it down to 25, or would it take it to 0?
Mr. Chairman, that your scenario, your first scenario is correct. It would be, okay, simple math, 75% off.
And then if I threw my veterans exemption in, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
So currently, Mr. Chairman, as you know, the long-term homeowners sunsets after this tax year right now, currently in law. So should other bills pass that are before this body, and the People's Initiative passes in November, then they would be able to receive both the 50% People's Initiative on the house only and the 50% on the house and associated residential land for the long-term homeowners. So yes, they could if certain bills pass, of course, sir.
Senator Ide.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to handicap all of this, in a world where you wanted to get the most cuts in property taxes, you would vote against this bill and cross your fingers that the People's Initiative passes.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a policy decision of the legislature.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Gill.
Thank you, sir.
Representative Locke. I'm going to force you to stay for a minute. Can you take a look at this bill and see if you can figure out an amendment, a friendly, simple amendment, or we can include the long-term homeowners in it?
Mr. Chairman, I will. I'll try to work that today for you. If, depending on what
Mr.
status
Chairman?
it happens.
And while he's doing that, before our county commissioners leave, is there a formal, has your association, Mr. Ryman, taken a formal stand on this? And I may have missed it in the process.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chairman, we are supportive of this legislation.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. We have anybody online?
Mr. Chairman, we have Dixie Huxtable.
Let's let her in.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committees for allowing me to do this online. I just wanted to reiterate that the assessors are supportive of this legislation so that we don't end up with that stacking scenario. And then maybe a little bit of clarification, and certainly the department can weigh in on this. There is current language in the exemption laws that specifically state that they cannot get the 25% and the 50% long-term homeowner. So that's already in statute. They can't get them both, one or the other. If the People's Initiative should pass and be enacted into that same section, there is also language in there as to how we apply the exemptions. And when it's a percentage of the value, which this, I believe, would be enacted that way, we start with the lowest percentage and go high. That bill was passed last year, and that's already in the statutes. So conceivably, if this bill does not pass, if this bill does not pass and the People's Initiative does pass and gets enacted into law into the same section, we would be applying the 25% first and then the 50% after that as I read the statutes. So it gets complicated, not just for us, but for the taxpayers to understand. And I do believe the intent was to never stack exemptions on top of each other. Of course, the People's Initiative is its own racehorse. So I think that enacting this so we make sure that we just have one exemption we're dealing with is probably the way that the assessors would like to see it go, just because of the implementation and the administration of it and the confusing part of it for everybody. With that, I would stand for any questions.
Questions? Well, thank you, Mrs. Huxtable.
Chairman, committee, Todd Ernst, Laramie County Assessor's Office. I just done some quick numbers on my house because there was a question on whether the 50 People's Initiative or the 25%. Working my house and the numbers with the 50% People's Initiative, it comes in at 188 roughly. And with the 25%, it comes in at 249. So just to give you a little clarification on a standard house in Cheyenne, standard lot. Obviously, if the land is larger and you don't get the 25%, it could go up. But just on a standard house in a residential subdivision, that's kind of where the numbers are at. And I'll stand for any questions.
Kind of confused when you say 188, 249. What are you referring to?
Right. So the 188 would be the People's Initiative, 50% off my house, but total land value. And then the 249 would be land and house with the 25% homeowners exemption.
So the 25% is better.
Actually, no, you're going to pay more on your 25% because your house would be valued at 249.
Okay, so it's 188 is what you're going to pay, not what's
Yeah,
being
that'd be
exempted.
that would be the market value. So then, of course, you'd run your assessed value. But yeah, so market value would be 288 with the People's Initiative with 50% off the house plus the land. And then it'd be 249 with house, land, and 25% off. So you'd pay more on the 25% than you would with the People's Initiative.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if you were talking about the exemption amount or whatever. So I appreciate you clearing that up. Any questions?
Thank you, Chairman.
Do we have anybody else? Well, we will close public comment. Committee, what's your pleasure?
You pass.
Second.
It's been moved by Senator Case, seconded by Senator Hyde. Let's do roll call.
Any chance we can have that in mind?
Yeah, what about that?
Yes.
This guy pops up all the time.
And he yells at me for making him stay.
I know.
Mr. Chairman, there's actually two options here. I'll get you an amendment for this bill. I'll get it as quick as I can as soon as I get out of my committee meeting here. But then there's also an option, depending on what happens with the other bills mentioned. And I'll try to get amendments for both and let you work that in whatever way it works best for you. And there's two options, two bills that are options. Just wanted to let you know that.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Dockstetter.
we have a vote in the process now, but those amendments play into this. And how are we going to do this on the floor, sir? Or-
Probably committee of the whole.
Maybe we could all join in an amendment if we get one together.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to call roll?
Please.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call vote on House Bill 147. Senator Case,
Aye.
Senator Dockstetter,
Aye.
Senator Ide,
Aye.
Senator Pappas left an aye vote via absentee. Chairman McEwen.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 5 ayes.
That has passed the committee. Next bill we'll take a look at is House Bill 127, voter approval for recreation mill levy. Mr. Speaker.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. How are you, sir?
Good.
Good to see you, committee. Ladies and gentlemen, or well, figuring on that, gentlemen, I'm bringing you House Bill 127. Would ask for your favorable consideration. This is a response to my community that is dealing with a situation where a mill levy was able to be brought currently in statute by school districts to be able to be presented and only voted on by actually the school board to be brought. The bill itself allows for a vote if the committee decides to bring that imposition and present it to the public for a public vote. And some of the background on this, we actually only have one county that doesn't have currently a mill levy that is being assessed for recreational mills. We have 2 other counties that have a percentage of those mills that are being assessed and being utilized by the counties. My county in Crook was one of the last 2 that had not yet assessed that recreational mill. When the discussion was had, we had quite a bit of conversation by the people of the county in regards to the necessity of the mill and what was the mill going to be, what was going to be done with the mill if we did pass this. Well, current state statute allows for a school board in this situation to be able to basically bring up and vote for this one additional mill. My bill is what my effort is in this is to allow that if the school district would want to do that, it would be brought to a vote. They could promote the mill and then bring it to the vote of the people. And if the people did want to provide support for that mill, then it would be passed. And then it would be reevaluated every 4 years in a general election. And simply accountability in my mind, sirs, it allows the people that are going to be tasked with the responsibility of paying that mill, the ability to find out whether or not that it's doing what it was intended to do. And that if the folks are paying close and focused attention to it and seeing if those dollars are actually effectively being used in the communities and around that county that those folks are being assessed and having to provide those dollars. It's interesting. A lot of the things that people are discussing about is that, well, we don't want to lose this mill. Once it gets started, we don't want to take the potential chance of it not passing. Well, interestingly enough, in our county, when this was promoted, that election year, this past election year, there was a 1% sales tax or basically a spec tax that was for infrastructure. And my county chose to vote that down. as a county. And that would have been $15 million to the county for infrastructure, but they determined by the vote of the people that they were willing to set that aside and let things kind of guide for now and see how things go. And then the next thing we know is that the school district has, the ability in statute to be able to say on a vote of 6-3 in this particular case, to assess a mill right back onto the folks without a vote, ongoing, unless something else changes in the school district, come back and removes it. It's there, and you don't ever get a chance to come back and opine on it as taxpayers. To me, committee, this is just a simple accountability option for people to be able to say, if it's doing its job, and it's providing the resources and the changes that the people wanted in the community, then they will support it. And if it comes up in 4 years, which I believe, and some asked me whether or not you should only do it every 2 years. My thought was, I thought it would be good, I think, to give you 4 years to prove that you're doing good work with it. And then have that opportunity to come back and say, okay, now let's take a good look at this. And are we getting the dollars where they need to go? Are we seeing a benefit from it? If so, people will campaign for it, they'll justify it, they'll vote it again. If it's working, they'll keep it. If it's not, then they have the opportunity to bring accountability to this and say, hey, you know what? It's not going where we thought it was going to go, and it's not doing what we thought it was going to do. Not just create an opportunity just to take another, fund and just spread it with no real regard. Even in my situation, when asked, what are you going to do at the mill? I said, we don't know. But we know that we can pass it, and that was the effort to do it. We'll get back to you. Now, to me, ladies and I'm always used to saying, ladies and gentlemen, everywhere. I'm seldom in front of a group of men, and I'm the chair on a committee here, so you'll have to forgive me. Senators,
Bob's kind of a lady.
well, I won't opine on that at all. The senators, I guess, to me, as a taxpayer and as someone that likes accountability and likes transparency, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking someone to come back and give a really good reason of what you're doing, and just to show the proof that the dollars that we're expecting people to pay is actually being utilized in a positive way for the community. And if they see that it's not, I've actually had people come back and they say, wait, that's become a slush fund. It's just huge. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. And I've had people come and say to me that, it's like, it's really difficult to get it spread around, and get it other places. So I think there's folks out there that would really like some ability to be able to have some pressure every 4 years to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And currently there isn't any. And these things just go on without any real oversight. And if they're doing their job, awesome. If they're not, I believe the taxpayers have a right to be able to opine and to vote on whether or not they want to continue that tax and have something to say about it. So, sirs, in a nutshell, that's what this really is. And it's only in regards to the recreational tax. And the clerks did some really good amendments with it, and also the commissioners got some things set up in there that were good amendments they brought on the House side that made the bill a lot better. They got us into the right area as far as on the bonding, on the vote times and stuff. I wanted in this bill for it to happen at a general election. It was more important to me that would happen every 4 years in a general election where there's more people that generally will opine on it, as opposed to the elections that take place sometimes for special levies and things like that. That was my desire, but that would be entirely up to you guys to decide what you want to do. That's certainly not a hill I would die on. There's 3 different times, basically, according to the bond statutes, that they can assess have a vote on a tax. The reason I like the general election is because more people are generally there to give their opinions, and it would be on there to recertify this. And if it's not doing what it's supposed to do, then I believe it should end. And there should be the right of the voters to make that determination. So with that, gentlemen, Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to try to answer any questions you have.
I just want to make sure I heard you right earlier. You had a vote for a 1% increase, and the people voted it down. And then a committee instituted it anyways. Did I hear that correctly?
It's 2 different deals. What it is the first one was a vote to provide for a 1% sales tax, 1 cent tax on everybody for infrastructure, which is distributed equally. It's in my community, it would be $15 million. There was $3 million that would go to the county, $3 million each to the other 4 communities. That added up to $15 million. The voters voted and said that they did not want that. And so to me, it's an indication of where the people are at. And then just almost shortly after that, after much discussion by people that wanted to, say, hey, listen, do we really need this? Is it necessary? What are you going to do with the money? The school board voted on a 6-3 to establish and put that mill back on. Another mill in a different way. This will be used for recreational, which can be, there's a pretty broad brush that this can be, spent on. But I think the thing that kind of people struggled with in my part of the country is, what are you going to do with it? And there was never an answer. I said, we'll figure that out. We just know that the state gave us a break, and we're going to take some of it back. So I guess, gentlemen, and I'll close with this. It just boils down to accountability for me. I don't like seeing things being assessed on there that don't have the ability to come back and to be opined on whether or not they're actually getting the work done and the dollars are getting to where they need to be, and it's a benefit to the county. And if the county citizens decide that it's not a benefit, then they should have that right to vote on that. And if nothing else, then it makes people realize that we got to do a good job with this, or this could go away. And I know that there's some folks out here that are going to probably opine on this, saying that, hey, we're used to this. This does this, this, and this. Well, then that's great. The people are going to continue to support it. But if it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing, then they should have the right to be able to say, we need to hang on to that money to do something else with it. So if it's good, it'll stay. If it's not, it should go. But that should be the people's decision.
Questions? Senator Hyde.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, thanks for bringing this bill. Obviously, I like it. Got my name on it. I'm, as you know, probably, I think recreation's really not even the role of government, period. I mean, it's, I know from my experience in my community, every recreation project we have, whether it's event center or golf course, the ski area, it all looks good up front, but then they all end up getting subsidized in the red. Nobody ever looks at the operating costs later on, and not everybody uses them. And I think this is a good approach here. Let the people vote on it. Sometimes I know they tried to throw a 6-cent sales tax on us, and they did in Natrona County on top of the 1-cent sales tax, extra penny. That one, it kind of had, the ballot had choices on about 6 different projects, and you could vote those up or down. And once they reach the dollar amount, then it goes away. And so I like your approach here. Let the people decide how they want to spend that money, and not just have it in perpetuity building up a slush fund to, build more recreation projects that the taxpayers end up subsidizing later on. So thank you for the bill.
Thank you, Senator. And Mr. Chairman, if you wouldn't mind, my understanding of how this came about was that early on, when we funded our schools, that sometimes the state, when they did it, did not complete some of the whole parts of it. For example, we'll fund you, or we'll build you a school, and we'll build you a track, but we're only going to give you a track with 6 lanes. And so 8 lanes is what it's required to be able to provide for tournaments and things like that, and meets. So they come back and they said, well, if some of the districts wanted to be able to provide some extra dollars for enhancements, that was a vehicle, is what my understanding was, is that this was provided so that the school districts could add some dollars to help with their enhancements. But I'll give you a scenario. The tracks are built. Okay, we built you a 6-lane track. Well, we found some money and we we added an extra 2 lanes. But then what we do is we come back and ask the state of Wyoming, say, hey, we would need some extra help with these enhancements. And then the question is, well, we didn't build those extra 2 lanes. That was the determination that you made, that is your responsibility. We built you 6. And if you want to add 2 more lanes onto there, then you need to come up with a plan on how you're going to maintain those things. And so they said, well, then they can put this on there to be able to potentially fund some of those enhancements. But in this situation, it's not restricted strictly to that. It can go elsewhere. And so I just, everybody says you're being tight-fisted or whatever, and that you're trying to make it hard for schools to be able to operate or for other people to be able to recreate. I guess the struggle that I have with it is if you don't have a plan and you don't know exactly where you're going to spend the money, but just because you could, does it mean you should? And I think you can solve a lot of this if you allow the people to be able to verify that things are doing and they support these things, and that they should be able to come back and to be able to continue to say whether it's doing the job and it's enhancing the things that we want to enhance. And if it's not, then it shouldn't just stay there and accumulate or go elsewhere with no real determination on the end of it. It should have the opportunity, in my mind, in my opinion, to be voted on by the people. And that brings accountability and it brings responsibility to the folks that are having to spend that money. So my opinion only. Thank you.
Senator Dockstetter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Nyman, if we step back from all of our discussion just on what this does or doesn't do in regards to recreation, there are a lot of opportunities we can give the people an opportunity to have voice, their opinion, and vote. Representative Nyman, why did you choose recreation?
Recreation was the one that was utilized in my community to basically come to a mill with just a vote of the school board without the ability of the taxpayers, with no long-term oversight of it, and the fact that the voters are going to ever get to be able to opine on this. There are other things, like this was tied in with the bochies and things like that. I'm not interested in trying to do anything to undermine that long-term consistent revenue that needs to come to those things to help support those portions of the educational process. To me, recreation is something that we all need to be able to opine on. Recreation doesn't just mean things that happen at the school. We live in one of the most beautiful states in the world, in Wyoming. Outdoor recreation is free. I mean, my grandkids, whether or not I fund a park for kids in town, we have a lot of parks. We've got a lot of parks in my communities. We've got streams running. We've got tennis courts. I've got philanthropy that came into my community here and built brand new pickleball courts, and there's a brand new splash pad, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's going in my community just from one family that came in and just saw the need and felt like they wanted to help the community. No dollars from outside. And what they're doing is they're managing the long-term maintenance of it by adding dollars to it, because they didn't want to come in and build something for a community and walk away and leave them with the maintenance of it. They actually looked at this thing and said, we're going to help you with, as it goes down the road for the community, to take the pressure off the community. So as from the idea of the necessity of it, I think that it needs to come back. Do we need more parks? Do we need more, recreational opportunities? Maybe. And if those things can be well vetted and made sure that there's something that's going to help all the communities in that district or in this county, that's great. And the people will support them. People are generous. They really are. And I think that the whole point of this to me is to provide long-term oversight and to make sure that sometimes things go years and you just take it for granted and it's just always there and you just keep cranking it out. And sometimes you need to ask the question, what are we doing with those dollars? Are they actually being used to multiply the value to the communities? And I just feel like recreation is something that we all need to be able to speak to, and people to have the opportunity to be able to say whether those recreational dollars, in addition to what other dollars we're already spending on education and recreation, are actually being spent wisely. And I think people need to be able to come up at least every 4 years and say, we're doing a great job. This is a great way to spend our money. I am glad to do this. In fact, I would give more, or I don't think it's doing what we intended it to do. And they need to be able to have the opportunity to decide that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unless you want to share the name of your guest family that stepped in and helped you.
No, they'd rather try to keep, everybody in the community knows who they are, but I think they prefer to not just be breezed around on a public YouTube video in the state of Wyoming. But we are and I wish more communities had that opportunity to have people come in and see, those things and want to do things. I mean, That's great. That's awesome. And then to your, maybe even to your point, well, maybe some communities can't do that. Maybe some communities don't have somebody that wants to come in and sow that kind of, investment into the community. Then here's a vehicle that they can do that. But I think that's good and it should be offered. But I think at some point you need to be able to have some accountability to come back and say, are we getting where we wanted to be? And you guys like it? It was so interesting, Mr. Chairman, if I may, Senator Dockstader, I really appreciate your question on this. When I first brought this out on my House floor and determined it, I mean, people went to the microphones like crazy and they're all up there and said, well, this does this, and this in our community. And this does this, and this, and this. And I would hate to see this go away. And I told everybody, I said, right there is a perfect example of why this needs to be here. Because at the mere thought of this going away, people hit the microphones and explain why this is a valuable and important part of their communities. And they made a cause and a reason to protect it. And that's a good thing. And I think all of us should be aware of that. If I hadn't brought this up, nobody would have even stopped to think about what it's doing and the positive impacts that it's having. It makes it easier to sell and it makes people aware that it could go away. And so when you're always under the idea that if it could potentially go away, you're going to do your very best to make sure that it's important enough and valuable enough to the community that they're going to want to go and support it with their vote. And I think it gets buy-in from everyone, because if I can just go stick something on you and it's just there and you don't really have much to say down the road, and it's going to be very difficult at best for you to change that, it's not as important. But if you're willing to get up every 4 years and say, look what we've done, ladies and gentlemen, with a very little of your tax dollars and how that has positively impacted the community, I think that's good. And if they can't get up in front of you and make that, argument, then I think maybe you need to reevaluate whether that's a good use of your money. But you can't do that without a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, committee. Appreciate your time, sirs.
Sir, I need 5 minutes. I gotta run down the hall. I'll be right back.
Okay. We have anybody in the audience that wants to speak to this?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Mary Langford, and I have the honor of representing the county clerks of the state of Wyoming. And my purpose here today is to focus on the administration of Wyoming's elections and the election that is associated with this mill levy. We made some amendments in the House side, which you can see in the engrossed bill, that had to do with establishing the conduct of the election to be in compliance with the bond election statutes, which impose taxes and deal with taxes. So we made those changes, as well as that we also made sure that this could be administered just on a general election at the request of the sponsors. So we've made those changes. With that, I have nothing else to add about this. We would be able to administer this election or this bill with the way it's proposed to you now to do the election. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions? Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, my name is Nick Bellack. I'm representing the voices of our members of the Wyoming School Boards Association. This bill is presented as a voter control measure, but it weakens local representative government and creates instability in communities. Our school board members are elected by the same voters that this body represents, and in many cases, voters elect multiple board members, not just one senator or one representative. Those elected board members already have the authority and the public accountability to levy or remove a levy. They're accessible through open meetings, public comment, email, and direct local engagement. This bill assumes that a representation gap is there that really doesn't exist. It actually is the opposite. This tax is taxation through one of the most local and directly accountable forms of representative government Wyoming has. Mr. Chair, House Bill 127 instead imposes a mandatory election process for school district recreation mills. It limits elections to the general election. It requires recurring reauthorization every 4 years. It sunsets existing levies unless reapproved, and that creates a funding uncertainty and makes long-term planning much harder, including finance for major community projects and facilities where stable operating revenue matters. These are not abstract dollars. These mills support community programs and users the state does not fully fund, including youth activities, community arts, shared recreation access. When funding becomes unstable, smaller and less wealthy communities are hit hardest because they rely on these levies as a stabilizing force to keep programs available and affordable. The bill also creates ongoing administrative burden by forcing districts to repeated election cycles just to preserve current service levels. It diverts time and energy away from programming and operations. And with recent property tax changes already affecting local revenue capacity, many communities are facing a double burden, which includes a shrinking base and a new legislative hurdle to use what remains. Our members have also raised concern that this does not function as a uniform statewide reform. Many special districts operate without a recurring 4-year approval structure, yet this bill singles out recreation-related local authority in a way that appears tied more to isolated disputes rather than a demonstrated statewide governance failure. If the concern is transparency and public voice, Wyoming already has those tools. There are elections, open meetings, public comment, and direct accountability to locally elected school board members. Mr. Chair, I'll summarize by stating that House Bill 127 seems to be a solution in search of a problem. It treats locally elected school boards as if they are not representative government, when they are among the most directly accountable elected bodies in Wyoming. House Bill 127 does not create representation, it undercuts it. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Questions? Senator Ide.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would you disagree that this is a protection of the taxpayers of their local governments? I mean, I think that our job here and the local representatives should be to protect the taxpayers. And I think this is a check on local governments to protect those taxpayers, and they can do it every 4 years if they want to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I suppose as I can talk about that, this is the representation that these voters are talking to and voting in. Again, I'll go back to saying that these recreation mills are not permanent. If the board does not favor this, they can end the recreation mill if there is public comment and that is engaged through that process.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
My name's Albert Summers. I'm a resident of Sublette County. And so, Mr. Chairman and fellow committee members, I would ask that you resist House Bill 127 and vote no on the bill. I think one thing to look at in this bill that I haven't heard mentioned today is look at what title this is in. This is in Title 18 of counties. That means you're also involving the county rec mill, which is instituted by county commissioners, and then they have a board. Remember that our county commissioners have the ability to levy their 12 mills every year. They don't go to the vote of the people. They have that ability because they are elected people. So I realize what statute you're in, because it also does affect the school mills. And so, Mr. Chairman, if enacted, this bill will have a negative impact on my communities in Sublette County. The Pinedale Aquatic Center, one of the hubs of our community used by all ages, would be at risk every 4 years of not having the money to maintain itself, as 65 to 75% of the budget comes from the rec mill. This is a 20-some million dollar facility when it was originally built. Public use in the Pinedale Auditorium is also funded through the rec mill, and this facility hosts performances for all ages. Big Piney uses this rec mill to fund the budget for the swimming pool and the Big Piney Recreation Center. Further, just south of Sublette, this is my understanding, the LaBarge Activity Bus is funded through the rec mill. And the county rec mill helps support our hockey rink and helps support our local golf course and many of the trails in our area. These facilities help keep kiddos off the streets. They keep seniors active in the winter, and they are attractions for people wanting to move to this area. These facilities bring events and visitors to our community and have a positive effect on the economy of these communities. Voting every 4 years would put an incredible amount of uncertainty in the preservation of these facilities and the ability to keep good employees. School board members, town council members, and county commissioners are elected just like you, and they can be unelected. They are accountable through the elections to the will of the people and should continue making these decisions regarding the rec mill. Mr. Chairman, this great nation was created as a republic, not a true democracy. Elected local government is part of a representative form of government. These folks are the closest to the people. Mr. Chairman and fellow committee members, I believe this bill is harmful to rural Wyoming, and I urge your no vote on the bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Dr. Mark Rinney. I'm a member of the Cheyenne City Council. And although as a city council, we don't have a big role in this, I do want to have some things I want to point out. The city and the county of Laramie have benefited at times. The rec mill monies have been used to upgrade some of our couple of our newer playgrounds in town. I know the city built a very nice all-access playground in Cahill Park, and we were able to benefit from the use of some rec mill monies for that. In looking back through the past lists of some of the monies that were used within the school district, most of that money went to upgrade or maintenance of sports facilities. And some of it, I had a daughter that was into music, and the music department at Hearst High School benefited from rec mill monies too. But I want to say it's sports, it's not recreation. Laramie County School District 1 used it generally for upgrading sports facilities and equipment. And as we all know, I think there are studies, all sorts of studies that indicate that student athletes do much better, learn how to manage their time much better, and do better in school than sometimes the general population. So I think we should continue to support those student athletes. I think this bill replaces a statutory authority with a recurring political campaign that can be more expensive to the school district. It affects, as has been stated, it does affect the stability of some long-term or ongoing projects. And it's worked well throughout the state. In almost all areas of the state that have had it, it has worked very well. It's been a benefit. It's allowed, as it's been stated, it's allowed the districts to raise money that they haven't had to come in and ask the state for or to help support. So I don't see any reason to mess with a program that has worked well around the state and for years. And finally, to echo what some of the other speakers have said, we are a representative republic. We do have accountability when there are elections every 2 to 4 years. So thank you for letting me say that, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Well, thank you for your testimony. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Sandy Newsom. I'm from Cody. And I served 15 years on the Shoshone Rec District. And that mill came from our schools. And what we did with that mill is we have a recreation district board made up of 9 members who are accountable to the school district. We had budgeting every year. We have a plan. We had a plan the whole time I was there, the 15 years. We had a very clear plan of our goals. We gave grants to many organizations, including our cross-country ski club, the swimming team, the American Legion Baseball, our ice skating team, and that was important money for them. So this, what I want to say, the thought that we were not accountable as a board, we held public budget sessions. We had a place for every penny of that money to go to enhance our community recreation, to help kids. We had an after-school program that we supported, but in that money as well was maintenance money for those things we created. We built pickleball courts, which is a wonderful thing. And we included money to support the maintenance of those pickleball courts. So when we need a new net, when we need to resurface the pickleball courts, we have money set aside, which some would call a slush fund, but we call it a maintenance fund. So in my estimation, if this has to come up every 4 years for a vote, what will happen is less of that money will get on the ground. More of that money will be kept in reserves in case the funding would go away, in case the voters would decide they did not want that. In my estimation, a responsible board would have a reserve fund that could carry them through till the next election. So if you want more money in reserve, this is a good way to guarantee it. Because those boards will act as if every 4 years they're going to lose that money. And a responsible board would say, okay, we value this, what we're doing with this money. So we'll put a little extra in reserve every year. So if that mill goes away, we can function for the next 4 years on a minimal basis to get to the next election. I don't think that's what you want to have happen from the standpoint of sitting on that board for 15 years. That's, we never had to, what we had to worry about on that board from a funding basis was the up and down of property tax. So I would suggest that you vote no on this, because I think that what happens if you vote yes on this is maybe less transparency. And, the nice thing about this mill is that it is consistent and that you can plan long-term. We had to save for, I think, about 5 years to put our pickleball courts in. And then we have that reserve money to maintain them. We've done a splash pad, and those are expensive to maintain. But we have money, because this is ongoing, we have money in there to maintain those things. I'd stand for any questions.
So that 9-person board, was that elected or appointed?
It is appointed. We had 2 school board members. I was appointed by the city. So the school board appointed, the city appointed, the county appointed. And those included 2 school board members, and the athletic director sit on that board as permanent seats. And then the others are appointed by the city and the county.
Any questions? Well, thank you for your testimony.
Mr. Chairman, we have Lisa Durgan online.
Okay, bring her in.
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Did you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. I thought I had it, and coming into the meeting was trickier than I thought. So thank you. I appreciate Chairman McEwen and the rest of the panel or the committee to entertain me today. Very interesting testimony, and I actually was really interested in hearing it because...
Could I get you to introduce yourself real quick?
I apologize. I'm Lisa Durgan. I live in Campbell County, Gillette, Wyoming, and I am on the school board there. And I would just like to give my point of view about our recreation mill and how it relates to what this issue is. So first of all, the implication of wrongdoing slush funds and we're not doing our best with public funds, that concerns me because there's a core governance issue there. And the question is not whether recreation should be accountable. All districts that are special districts, counties and cities and legislature for that matter, operate under statutory caps. We all have elected boards and are all subject to public meeting hearings. And we face annual oversight. So I'm not sure why Recreation District is being singled out of all the other 19 special districts that are able to levy mills. I don't think that it's any different than the other special districts. And one of those other special districts includes, for an example, weed and pest districts. Weed and pest districts the board is appointed by the county commissioners. There's 25 of those districts statewide. They generate over $44 million annually. They can authorize up to 2 mill levies. And there are every district that this committee, the persons in this committee, that you all have weed and pest districts, and Kirk County does as well. Actually, Kirk County, they levy medical services special district for $850,000, weed and pest district for $566,000, a special museum district for $284,000, a senior citizen special district for $283,000, for a total of almost $2 million in special district funding. And I would think that if we have concerns about oversight and accountability and whether the voters would like those services, we should probably consider doing it for all special districts, not just one. So for school district recreation bills, 46 of 48 school districts levy 1 mill. I believe Kirk County just signed in, and so that makes 47 of 48. Most are longstanding, and they generate approximately $26.8 million statewide. There is no current voter approval required for to go up or down on those mill levies. What it funds statewide, I've had a lot of people from around the state contact me, different board members, and try to advocate for this. It's pretty universal that playground equipment purchase, replacement, maintenance, safety, resurfacing, gymnasium maintenance, playfield maintenance and irrigation, bleachers, repair and replacement, lighting system, scoreboards, but also community recreation facilities. I believe Douglas has a recreation facility similar to what the other gentleman was saying in his district, that it built it and that runs the recreation mill funds that as well. We also, many districts from across the state fund Special Olympics. We have a very robust arts and education program here in Campbell County that all of our elementary children are able to take advantage of, plus our community is able to do that, enjoy those programs as well. Boys and Girls Club, youth sports leagues, orchestras, Audubon Society, after-school programs. These are not luxury. They're part of our community infrastructure, and that is the same way it is across all of these 46 to 47 districts. Isolating one category of a special district creates structural inconsistency. It introduces political instability, and it undermines long-term capital planning. And it jeopardizes program continuity, and it sets a precedent for targeting other district types. There are things that we do as one-time grant funding, but there are many things that we do as consistent year after year funding. And I would say that we would probably phase out year after year funding if we knew that it was not insured for a long term, because there's people employed by some of these programs, and that's not something that I would choose to do to an employee or a program. And I really hope you reconsider this for the recreation district. I am very saddened that the school district in Crook County may have handled this creation of this rec district in the way that Mr. Nyman described, because that's not collaborating with your community. But even if they did make a mistake in how they formed it and their approach to it, I don't know as the rest of the 46 recreation districts from around the state should suffer for it. I would stand for any questions.
Questions? Well, thank you, Mrs. Durgan, for your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen.
Mr. Chairman, we have Mark Christensen.
Let's bring him in.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
members of Senate Revenue, I want to thank you for your time, and I want to and your attention to this important issue. There's a couple things I want to talk about first, and for background,
Please introduce yourself.
my name is Mark Christensen. I'm a Campbell County School District trustee. I previously spent 7 years as Campbell County Commissioner. When I look around the revenue table, I recognize a lot of you. I was one of the lead proponents, if you go back, when we went to monthly ad valorem taxation, and tried to bring that a couple times before we finally got the legislature to move on it. So I am familiar with revenue and ad valorem taxes. What I'm offering today is a couple things. I first want to counter a few of the points I believe the speaker made, and this has been transformed into a discussion of transparency, but the reality is that rec mills are really transparent. So in December, the school district accepted its audit. No findings. The school district's been accepting audits of no findings for years. And it's not because they're not looking. Having participated in the audit committee, we are highly regulated and highly reviewed. The rec mill is one of the components of that audit. With regard to oversight, when I look at it, the rec mill holds a public hearing. They publicly accept grants. They're publicly accessible. Their records are subject to Wyoming public records law. Once the rec mill approves their budget, they separately have an additional hearing with the school board, where the school board basically ratifies the rec mill's budget. And then that is submitted to the county commission, who then actually applies that 1 mill. When I look around Wyoming, there's a lot of different districts, and there's some things that are important. And so you don't do it every year. We don't vote every 4 years whether or not we're going to maintain the county, 12 mills. We don't vote every 4 years whether or not we're going to maintain the city, 8 mills. We don't vote every 4 years whether or not we're going to continue the solid waste district up to 3 mills, or the water and sewer district, depending on 3 and 8. Like, there's any number of mills in Wyoming. And what we've instead done is we have accepted what goes with a representative democracy. And when I look here, it's like, I don't know what happened in Crook County. I'm guessing that based on the speaker's feedbacks, things were not handled the best way. But what you do in those situations is the voters have the opportunity to change out the Crook County School Board. I would say that any number of us that are elected officials, the 5 of you included, if the public is unhappy with our decisions, has the opportunity to replace us in a subsequent election. With rec mills, that money could stop any year before the budget is pre-approved. So when those mills are set, if the public has an issue with this, they could change out the school board and stop the rec mill. That's not happening. Reality is that most of those monies are going to things that people are really, really pleased with. In Campbell County, a couple of things that are really critical to this community and our culture. We've been doing youth K-6 swimming lessons in this community for 50 years. Every kindergarten through 6th grader gets 2 weeks of swimming at the aquatic center. That is funded entirely with rec mill money. The new Campbell County High School, which we appreciate you funding last year, includes between 15 and 25 million of enhancements. And when we say enhancements, I usually add it with a little bit of air quote, because enhancements in my mind thinks like incredible finishes and great additions and things like that. And enhancements are really, you guys will pay for the field and part of the track, but it's not much use if you don't have bleachers. It's not much use if you don't have locker rooms. We enlarge the spaces in the gyms. We do enhancements in any number of places. And when those have a recreation component, one of the places we go to is the rec mill. If you look at statewide tournaments and spaces like that as well, the aquatic center here benefited from the rec mill, but that facility is used by swimmers from all around Wyoming. And it's been used that way for 50 years. When I look at the rest of this, I kind of come to the point, it's like, I can assure you, if the voters or the school board does something that the voters aren't happy with, they can change them. I remember when I was growing up, there was a vote in Campbell County on expanding the airport, and the voters voted it down. The commissioners a couple of years later did it anyway. And magically, the commission changed out the next vote. So we have any number of processes for accountability right now. What we don't do is we don't go to the voters every time for everything. And on this particular issue of like whether there's something different with this than other things, when you look at Wyoming, I have said for a decade, Wyoming's greatest export is educated young people. And it is our worst one. And the fact that we continue to do so little to address it is shameful. I sat on Governor Meade's Endow task force, and at the time, 82% of UW graduates left Wyoming. 87% of engineering graduates left Wyoming. It's not because like they didn't enjoy growing up in Wyoming. It's because there was an opportunity here. It's because there were other things that weren't as well. And things like this recreation mill are investments that bring people back. If you look at regular programming, there was a number of 4-H students who were at the Capitol on Monday. I know they were introduced to you. That 4-H group was funded where travel with rec mill money. Here we see rec mill money go towards 4-H, DECA, FCCLA, large print books for seniors, sporting events. That money touches every citizen. And when it comes to accountability too, we talk about cost. So the average family that has a $300,000 home, their cost for the rec mill is $28.50 per year. I'm not saying that that's not value money and that people don't work hard for it. What I'm saying is that the scale of that as it gets applied becomes money that really does great things for communities. And the other thing is that when you develop quality programs, you have to have consistency. One point of this that I think is missing from the speaker's analysis or from some of the members of this committee is who's going to actually lobby this? The 1% comes up for renewal every 4 years, but because there's a huge amount of 1% money that's spent on contractors, there's a PAC that is formed to advocate for that. That PAC in this community is between $20,000 and $40,000 a year. When the majority of the rec mill money is going in grants that are $1,500 to a group of kids who have a bike club, or $500 to this, or $5,000 to 4-H young leaders, or $20,000 to all of 4-H, none of those groups are in a position to fund a PAC. Like this utopian idea that everybody will be educated and that the voters will have all the information just doesn't happen. If it did, we wouldn't be having this debate because there is a lot of oversight right now. And I want to bring you back to what are we using this money for and what are these programs? So like here, it is K-6 swimming. If that fails, and then you wait 4 more years, what happens to the kids who got kindergarten, first grade, second grade? Then they dropped off. Or the kids that started in kindergarten and then it was picked back up in 5th. That's not how you operate a program. It's not how you do good work. It's the same thing with education. Like, you want to go hire good people. We had a celebration last week of a blue ribbon school. And when I was there, I told everybody, I said, like, this is proof that we do great work in education if we hire the right people, fund them adequately, and get out of the way. And this is the same kind of thing. Like, we do really good work through rec mills. And I appreciate your reviewing this, but I would encourage you to vote no on House Bill 127. And I would stand for any questions.
Questions? Well, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we have Emmy Demoto Riley.
Okay.
Emmy, if you turn your mic on and video on.
3. Oh, she does. Yeah.
My apologies. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Senate Revenue Committee. My name is Emmy Demoto Riley. I am the Vice Chair of the Friends of the Pinedale Aquatic Center, also known as the PAC. We are a nonprofit established to ensure supplemental funding for programs and services currently provided at the PAC. And I really appreciate your time today. And I also understand many of my points have been mentioned by prior speakers, so I do want to be respectful of your time. So I'm going to jump around a little bit in a few notes that I have. So the PAC's annual operating budget is $2.1 million, which is nearly 75% of that comes from the school district rec mill levy. So that's $1.5 million. Our little nonprofit group raises about $90,000 each year. So that only goes to about 4% of the operating budget. We aim to fill a growing $300,000 gap, but we are not getting there. We've been working on this for 8 years, and 90,000 is about what we are able to raise to help programs and services continue at the Pinedale Aquatic Center. The PAC was constructed in 2008 with the understanding that the rec mill levy was a consistent funding source to provide a steady base for the operations. My concern with House Bill 127 is that we will then rely on fully informed and educated voters. As was mentioned before, if people want it, they will pass it. But it is well understood that when people are presented with a tax question on a ballot, many voters default to no because they do not fully understand the direct and immediate impact that this will have. I feel like through my fundraising efforts and conversations with people who live here, residents, as well as elected officials, many people do not understand how the facility is funded, let alone how other recreation facilities are funded within the county, in addition to what taxes they do pay. And I might be guilty of that as well. There's many things I'm not quite sure exactly what it goes towards. But I don't believe that this bill will address the issue that seems to be stemming, as as Representative Nyman had mentioned. It's about an accountability and transparency issue. In our situation, you can access any of the past budgets for the Pinedale Aquatic Center. They're available to anyone online anytime up to 10 years ago. And it sounds like in Representative Nyman's area that they had said that there was no plans for the funds. We have plans, and our plans are in use, and they're funding a critical $26 million structure. So there is a plan, and it seems to be hurting a place that already has accountability, transparency, and plans. Another piece was that Representative Nyman also mentioned that outdoor rec is free. I guess I would say outdoor rec is free if you have the skills and the fitness to use it. The skills and the fitness are related to what you were given access to publicly, such as learn to swim lessons. This bill directly harms small public pools across the state. If you want to go and access the free, beautiful pond or lake that is on public land and you go jump in and you were never taught swim lessons, I was going to say that's a pretty high price to pay if you drown in that lake because you never had that opportunity because this funding was eliminated. My other concern is the idea of that every 4 years enables the taxpayers to reassess if that funding is used appropriately. They should be able to know that it's being used appropriately every year, not every 4 years. Again, if you go back to the Pinedale Aquatic Center and you would like to see how we utilized the $1.5 million in taxpayer funds, we can give you that information. I should say the PAC can give you that information. This bill will just cause great insecurity and make it very challenging for us to move forward with capital planning, and it'll just be, I think, a very big loss for not just our community, but small communities across the state. And that's all I have to share with you today. Thank you so much.
Questions? Well, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, our last individual online is Amber Anderson.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, she declined the invitation.
Can't blame her.
We have any other testimony out in the audience?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Robert Short, Commerce County Commissioner. And just to provide a little bit of clarity on what one of the speakers addressed, a recreational center in Commerce County. There are two, one in Douglas and one in Glen Rock. The two different school districts have different methodologies through which they administer the rec mill levy. The one in Glen Rock has a separate board. They operate a recreational facility that is utilized by a great number of seniors in Glen Rock. The board in Douglas, I'm sorry, in school district number 1, is the school board who actually dons off their school board hat and dons on their rec board hat to administer rec mill business. So as points of clarity, these two facilities operate very differently in that regard. The facility in Glen Rock, the rec mill, the recreation facility, is free to all people. And so I think they're utilizing that rec mill in a very beneficial way for the folks in Glen Rock. One of the questions that I have would be associated with the rec mill. And of course, I do not disagree that citizens should have eyes on and voices for or against the utilization of tax dollars. I think that's fundamentally important for us. But in the event that there is an uproar, a kerfuffle that causes a loss of that rec mill, who's responsible for the installed facilities at that point when there's no funding available? Whose responsibility is it to maintain, remove, remediate, et cetera, those installed facilities? Is there any language that could be added to the bill to cover that for whatever period of time? And I don't have an answer for any of that, Mr. Chairman. It's just a concern that I would have. Would we end up with blighted areas that were funded by a rec mill levy at one point, and now because of a change in tenor of folks who are not happy with the way the rec mill was applied, decide that they're not going to fund it anymore? Do we end up with blighted parts of our communities? And that's my testimony, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Senator Dockstader.
Mr. Chairman, just quickly, sir, you're speaking on behalf of your county. Are you aware, is your association in all the counties, have they taken a stand on this matter?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Dockstader, I am not sure that we had a position other than to really listen closely to the discussion to make sure that we understood what was being proposed.
Senator Ide.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner, for being here. You know, you brought up, if that funding dried up and you have the blighted areas, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, you know, if it was a successful commercial operation, user fees and just a private company take that over, wouldn't that be an option? Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Mr. Chair, in a perfect world, I agree with that. But we all know what world we're living in. I think sometimes folks are misinformed. They don't really understand, as one of the folks testifying earlier said, how these funds are utilized and what they go to benefit. So I'm not sure. I can tell you in the past, a rec center proposed for a 4-fee structure was voted down. That's just data that I have.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Case.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm trying to go down the road of your idea of, well, what happens if the mill levy goes away? Can we build in some kind of a soft landing in terms of a period of time when either maintenance fees or other fees, I guess it could still be in place at a smaller level that diminishes over time, perhaps. I don't know. And is one of your concerns, and I'm not sure about this, is the mill levy used to support bonds in certain times or not?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Senator Case, would you ask me that last bit of that question again, please?
Well, Mr. Chairman, and it's probably unfair for you, but in general, can these mill levies be used to support bond issues for construction that are paid back? Is that possible? And I don't know. So they would be the promise on bonds. And so in that case, there would be some kind of an agreement that they would be going towards those bonds, I would imagine, but maybe that's not relevant for these kinds. And if it's okay, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I should have asked a lot earlier.
Mr. Chairman, I played a lawyer in 3rd grade play one time.
Really?
But I was not very successful. I lost that case. But to your point, I would suspect that a soft landing kind of approach might be similar to what our solid waste districts have done in the cease and transfer type of funding, that they've been allowed to accrue funding over a period of time to be able to fund that cease and transfer capping of their disposal facility in order to prepare for, you know, the closeout, I guess. But again, I'm a little too naive to address that in any kind of comprehensive way.
Me too, I think. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
And with that, I think we'll close out testimony. Or not.
Mr. Chairman, Boyd Brown. I'm just going to speak as the ex-superintendent from Campbell County and answer Senator Case's question, if that would be appropriate.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when the city, the county, and the rec district worked on the rec center in Campbell County, we did exactly what you said. We did bond for it, and we were using
Proceeds of the mill levy.
proceeds to pay that off. So I just wanted to answer that question.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, Amber would like another shot.
Got to round up now.
2 minutes off.
Yeah, I'll give her 2 or 3 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, she should be joining now.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I sincerely apologize. I am traveling to state hockey for my son and had some issues with some internet access, but thank you for giving me a moment to speak. My name is Amber Anderson. I am the president of the Wyoming Rec and Park Association. Just to add a couple of points based off of information that has already been shared today regarding House Bill 120. I wanted to highlight that recreation funding in our state is not one size fits all. That some of the larger communities, yes, have municipal parks and recreations, but a lot of our smaller communities do not. And these rec dollars from school district rec mills are vital funding for a lot of the rec services in the smaller communities around our state. And one point that I really want to highlight is one common ground is the funding of swimming pools. Nearly every swimming pool in this state is funded partially or almost fully through dollars through this rec mill funding. Those dollars are not available anywhere else in the community. Running a swimming pool is expensive. They have very fixed costs. They have state statute requirements as far as water treatment, water temperatures, staffing ratios that have to be met for operations. In the event that a rec mill was not voted in, you run the risk of these facilities being unable to operate in our community. And then you are leaving expensive facilities sitting empty with no other ability to operate that. I'm not going to speak to the amazing programs and activities that these fund throughout the state. I hope you guys were able to read the report that was sent to you by the Wyoming Rec Association about the recreation at risk. But in closing, I will highlight, as a recreation professional, I have been in this career for 18 years. I give my heart and soul to my community through this, as I do know recreation professionals around the state do. I can't know if I have a job every 4 years. I am not somebody who's running for office, counting on that. So I ask for you to please consider the instability of jobs and positions and the services to the community that our rec professionals around the state provide. So with that, I thank you very much for the opportunity to testify today.
Yeah, I think that's a friendly amendment.
Okay, I would make that a motion.
Did we get the original second? The first and the second, get the second.
We did.
Okay.
For the bill.
Yeah.
That was for the bill, but this, I'll make a motion on amendment.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, could you repeat the amendment, please?
Basically changes the effective dates to 1 January 2027 to December 31st, 2030, 2028 and 2030. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, correct on line 7, change the 2028 to 2030. On line 13, we would rewrite that section. Instead of making it effective immediately, we'd make it effective July 1st, 2029 is what I had suggested.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
All those in favor of Senator Case's amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. That amendment does pass. Back on the bill.
Mr. Chairman, I would try to deal with this idea that you have obligations out there that are secured, legally secured by mill levy. But I think if the bill goes through with these extended dates, we actually have time to probably work on that. So I won't offer it this time. I realize the hour.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, comment in general.
Senator
This is
Dockstader.
difficult. I see what my colleague's trying to do here to move it out, but I think all the parties haven't had a chance to really discuss this and see where it takes it. I can see their concerns. I can see the original approach. I see recreation as an option. But I also see that we've got places all across the state that are making their plans and trying to keep their systems going, their recreational systems going. I hear from my people just over the hill from me. One time I had a chance to represent them, but was moved out to another area, but I'll still try to take care of them, even with this. So I will oppose the bill and say that perhaps that amendment needs to be taken into consideration for everyone involved and to see if we can't find a solution with that amendment down the road. But right now, for them to hear this for the first time may be difficult. I'll just remain a no on the bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Senator Dockstader. Anybody else? Let's go ahead and call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call vote on House Bill 127 engrossed as amended. Senator Case?
Aye.
Senator Dockstader?
No.
Senator Ide?
Aye.
Senator Pappas?
No.
Chairman McEwen?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 3 ayes, 2 noes.
House Bill 127 has passed. We'll head up to the floor. And